Made with Spoken. Celestial Convergence Dragons of Vacari No. 3 by T.A. McEvoy. Digital narration, performed by multiple digital voices. Meanwhile, in Lyra'el, the light was beginning to return. Before Ong could lead Prince Gylon to Keisha, a familiar voice cut through the quiet hum of magic.
"Don't you dare act like I should still be in bed,"
Keisha said as she stepped from the healing pavilion, posture steady despite the faint bruises that traced her skin. Ong spun, eyes wide.
"Keisha, what are you doing up? You should be resting."
Relief washed over his face, sweeping away the edge of worry. For a breath he looked ready to scold her, yet pride and protectiveness tangled in his expression, neither winning. Keisha's lips curved in a faint smile, her chin lifting.
"I have rested,"
she said firmly.
"and I'm fine."
Before Ong could argue, a calm, resonant voice drifted down from above. Aurelius, the celestial dragon, descended in a sweeping arc, his vast wings shimmering with inner starlight. He touched the terrace with impossible grace, eyes glowing as they fixed on Ong.
"She is healed,"
Aurelius said, his voice deep and gentle.
"The bruises will fade. The runes are closed. Her spirit is intact and strong."
Ong's arms stayed folded, but a reluctant nod betrayed the weight sliding from his chest. His stance remained taut, protectiveness coiled in every muscle. Keisha inclined her head.
"Thank you."
Aurelius's crystalline chuckle rippled like glass struck by light.
"It is not thanks I seek, child. Only peace restored to the wounded."
Gylon's gaze lingered. For a moment he hesitated, torn between silence and truth. Then Keisha met his eyes, unflinching.
"I know the Dominion name has been reborn,"
she said, voice firm as steel.
"but they will find that things have changed, and they will be stopped just as before."
A quiet fire burned in her words, daring the shadows to return. Ong drew her close, one hand steady at her back, a gesture at once protective and grounding. From the archway to the inner sanctum, Lord Caranan emerged, robes still sparking with enchantment.
"Radiantus requests everyone's presence,"
he said, tone heavy with urgency.
"A gathering in the central sanctum, all riders and dragons, now."
Ong inclined his head. Gylon stepped to Keisha's side, the air taut with unspoken truths, and together they followed. Verdantia and Aurelia landed in tandem, wings folding with practiced grace as their luminous eyes swept the skies. The silence that followed was brittle, fragile as glass beneath a storm's weight. Yet both dragons held their heads high, unyielding as they moved toward the heart of Lyra'el. Behind them, the celestial realm itself seemed to brace. The central sanctum shimmered with quiet tension. Crystal platforms pulsed beneath the gathering of riders, dragons and elders. At the chamber's center stood Radiantus, his vast platinum form aglow with restrained power. The hush deepened as dragons furled their wings and riders straightened instinctively, drawn upright by the gravity of his presence. He needed no words to command reverence. His being steadied the room.
"Hear me,"
Radiantus said, his voice rumbling with the weight of ages.
"Another attack is imminent. The last was not their strength, but their measure. They will return."
The chamber stilled, as if Lyra'el itself had paused to listen.
"This will not be a skirmish,"
Radiantus continued, diamond-like silver eyes gleaming like molten steel.
"They will come to destroy Lyra'el, to end us."
Dragons shifted uneasily, wings brushing. Riders exchanged tense glances, fingers tightening on staves and hilts. Then Aurelius stepped forward, crystalline wings folding like sheets of light.
"If any wish to leave, now is the time. The celestial dragons will carry you to Crystal Vale, where you will be safe until the battle ends."
At his word, radiant dragons moved to the fore, wings stretching in solemn readiness. But no one moved. An elder elf, with spun silver hair and molten gold eyes, stepped out. Her voice rang clear, unwavering.
"We will not leave. If you fight, we will fight. Lyra'el's halls will not fall unguarded."
A murmur swelled, agreement spreading like wildfire. Radiantus inclined his head, the faintest echo of pride in his thunderous presence.
"Then let it be known, Lyra'el does not stand alone."
Dragons unfurled their wings in a silent salute, the chamber brightening with crystal shimmer and flame. Riders stood tall beside them, resolve anchoring them like iron in stone. War was coming, but so was unity. From the crowd, a young woman with braids of gold stepped forward, gaze steady as she approached Radiantus. She bowed low, then lifted her chin to meet his diamond-like silver eyes.
Will you want me as your dragon rider for this battle?
Talira's voice carried, clear and strong. Radiantus tilted his massive head, scales bathing her in silver fire.
It could be dangerous.
Talira's chin lifted higher.
It is always dangerous for dragon riders.
Kimras shifted, the golden dragon's gaze brushing Keisha before returning to Radiantus.
She speaks the truth.
Radiantus gave a solemn nod.
Then gather the others. Tell the Platinum Riders to prepare.
Aurelius stepped forward, luminous wings folding, presence suffused with quiet divinity.
While dragon riders are indeed valuable, the celestial dragons will forego them in this battle. We must fly unbound, free to heal and to guard without endangering those we carry.
Lord Karanin inclined his head, fingers steepled.
So it must be. The celestial dragons hold the light itself within their veins. To hinder that is to weaken us all.
A murmur swept the chamber, solemn but resolute, as roles sharpened into clarity. Each dragon and rider accepted their place in the defense of Lyra'el. Radiantus turned, gaze lingering on Kimras, Amara, Verdantia, and Aurelius in turn, diamond-like silver eyes heavy with unspoken questions. But before he could voice them, Kimras stepped forward.
"Do not ask, Radiantus,"
the ancient golden dragon declared, voice ringing firm.
"We, with our dragon riders, will fight. This battle is not only for Lyra'el, it is for all of Vacari."
Agreement rippled through the noble dragons. Wings shifted, scales glinting as if ready for fire and storm alike. Ong leaned toward Keisha, his voice low and taut.
Would it do me any good to tell you not to ride Kimras into battle?
Keisha's smile was calm, unshaken.
No. You know my magic will be needed.
Prince Gylon gave a short laugh, glancing between them.
Seems your wife is just as stubborn as you are, Ong.
Ong's dry look was answer enough.
You are not helping.
From the edge of the sanctum, an elder stepped forward, voice steady with purpose.
Platinum dragon riders, follow me. It is time you received a gift long kept hidden.
Curiosity flickered, but they obeyed. The elder led them into a narrow corridor veined with starlit crystal. At its end loomed a vaulted door etched with ancient runes. He laid his hand upon the seal. A pulse of light rippled outward, and the stone parted with a sigh. Inside, resting on velvet pedestals, shimmered shields of inner radiance.
These,
the elder said, lifting his hand,
are the light-forged shields crafted centuries ago for those sworn to defend the celestial realm.
One rider stepped forward, awe in their voice.
What do they do?
They form a barrier around rider and dragon alike,
the elder replied.
They reflect dark magic, strengthen defenses, and resonate with the purity of your intent. Treat them with honor.
One by one, the riders approached, reverent hands lifting the radiant relics. Light cascaded across the chamber walls as shields gleamed like captured starlight. But when Talira stepped forward, the elder paused. Upon the final pedestal rested a shield, unlike the rest, its surface veined with silver light, sigils carved deeper, the metal faintly alive.
This one,
the elder said softly,
was forged at Radiantus's command long ago. It was meant for the rider who would stand beside him when Vacari's need was greatest. It will answer only to one bound to him by oath and spirit.
Radiantus lowered his head, diamond-like silver eyes steady upon Talira.
Take it.
Her fingers closed around the grip, and the runes blazed to life. Silver fire leapt across its surface, resonating with Radiantus's glow until dragon and relic pulsed in unison. A hush fell. Even the air seemed to bow to the weight of the moment. Talira lifted the shield high, its light wrapping her in Radiantus's strength.
I will not fail you.
Radiantus's reply rumbled through the chamber, deep as the earth and vast as the stars.
Nor will I.
Lord Karanin appeared again, enchantments shimmering across his robes. His voice was low but certain.
Caelorn has offered to join the civilians, aiding the barrier around Lyra'el's mountains and towers. Valion will remain here, assisting the medics.
Caelorn's eyes swept the gathering one last time.
Good luck to you all. Stay sharp. Stay safe.
Valion stepped forward hesitantly, voice little more than a whisper.
Do you think I can do this?
A medic smiled, firm but kind.
You've learned much, Phaleon. Your training may not be complete, but you are ready.
Uncertainty flickered, shadowing his eyes. Ong stepped to his side, resting a steady hand on his shoulder.
You've come a long way from being a puppet to that stranger, to a man who knows where he belongs.
Valion's expression softened with gratitude.
Thank you, Ong.
He turned, shoulders squared with new resolve, and followed the medics toward the supply pavilion. Lord Caronan moved to Keisha, drawing her into a brief, warm embrace. For a heartbeat, she stilled, the weight of his words pressing into her chest.
My daughter.
The phrase sank deeper than any magic, steadying her even as it left an ache. His voice dropped into the lilting cadence of Elven, meant for her alone.
Belethiel yare enethiel.
Be careful, my daughter.
Then, softer still, words like a secret long carried.
Ninuva telanthilti, nani winnarilti naransira.
I could not bear to lose you, not as I lost your mother.
Keisha froze. The Elven flowed through her like music she had always known, its meaning cutting deeper than any blade. He loved my mother. The thought thundered in her chest, reverberating with the storm that gathered at Lyra'el's gates. The celestial elders fell in beside Caronan, footsteps ringing against crystal floors as they moved toward the barrier. All around, the city stirred. Dragons took their stations, wings spreading in gleaming ranks. Enchanters wove fresh wards across the outer rings. Armor clattered, blades sang free, and the hum of magic deepened into a rising chord. Together, Lyra'el marched toward preparation for war, and whatever dawn might follow. Above, the stars still burned, but soon they would be put to the test. In Lyra'el, silence clung to the city like a breath held too long, stretched taut and trembling. The crystal towers shimmered in the pale light of dawn, scattering shards of brilliance across the valley below. The beauty of the suspended bridges, their lattice of silver threads catching the sunrise, belied the storm gathering just beyond the horizon. The wind that wound between spires carried no birdsong, only a low, expectant hush, as if the city itself had gone still in anticipation. Across the dragon terraces, riders stood beside their bonded companions, armor polished to a cold gleam. The platinum dragons were already in formation, their massive wings half unfurled, eyes reflecting the silver wards that shimmered faintly at the city's edge. Each dragon radiated power, their light-forged shields interlacing in a lattice of brilliance, while the elders and enchanters chanted in steady cadence. Their voices braided with the city's eternal hum, weaving light into a dome that wrapped Lyra'el like a gleaming fortress in the sky. Within the healing sanctum, the air was taut with purpose. Medics darted between rows of prepared cots, arms laden with linen rolls, crystal vials, and bundles of herbs. Alchemists stirred luminous draughts in glass vessels that pulsed like captive stars, while apprentices whispered spells of mending under their breath. Every movement carried urgency, but not panic. They knew what was coming. They had been preparing for this day their whole lives. On the eastern flank, Prince Gylon stood tall in his gleaming armor, hand resting on Aurelia's ridged neck. The crystal bow lay strapped across his back, its string vibrating faintly, resonant with her breath, as though the weapon had already chosen the battle's rhythm. Aurelia's crystalline scales caught the sun, scattering radiant shards of light into the darkening sky.
You'll likely need to break their shadows when they come,
Aurelia murmured, her voice like wind chimes stirred by a distant breeze.
Blinding light may be our best chance to shatter their formations.
Gylon's jaw tightened. His heart pounded in time with the bow's glow, but his eyes never wavered from the horizon.
Then I'll be ready.
On the western edge, Thalorian's silhouette cut a proud figure astride Verdantia. The arbor blade was already drawn, its emerald edge humming with a song older than the city itself, a resonance that seemed to draw strength from the roots of the mountains below. Verdantia's great wings flexed, shaking frost from their golden-green feathers.
If they seek to breach the wards from the ground,
Verdantia rumbled, her voice like leaves whispering in a storm.
Then here, amid the trees of the singing forest, we will break them. Let their darkness falter against the wild.
We will not yield,
Thalorian vowed, raising the arbor blade. His words were not loud, yet they rang clear through the bond he shared with his dragon, carried to the hearts of those who stood beside them. High above, Kimras carved a steady path through the heavens, his vast golden wings cutting through the dimming sky. Morning light rolled down his scales like rivers of fire, each beat of his wings reverberating with ancient power. On his back, Keisha sat poised, her red hair whipped by the wind, her hands glowing faintly with gathering magic. Her green eyes fixed on the horizon, where shadows gathered like a wound in the sky. She spoke no words, but her silence burned with iron resolve. Amara swept alongside them, her amethyst wings casting arcs of violet fire as they caught the dawn. Ong leaned low against her neck, the dragon lance strapped to his back gleaming with deadly promise. His eyes scanned the rolling clouds with the keen focus of a man who had fought, bled, and chosen to belong to this place. Amara's tail flicked in irritation, her voice ringing sharp in the minds of those near her.
The air stinks of their corruption already. My head aches from it, disgusting.
Between the noble dragons soared the celestial beings, radiant, riderless, their vast wings spanning the sky like banners of living light. They circled above the city as though forming a second, higher firmament, their silver brilliance rippling in harmony with Lyra'el's wards below. On the highest spire, Kalorn stood at the nexus of magic, robes aflame with woven light. His arms rose, palms outstretched, as streams of silver fire bled from the stones into the air. His voice thundered through the link stones, unwavering and sure.
Hold your positions. Watch for any fracture points. If you see even the faintest flicker, speak it.
From the sanctum balconies, the citizens pressed together, their faces pale but unbroken, lips moving in silent prayers to gods who might no longer listen. No one fled. None looked away. They knew if Lyra'el fell, there would be no refuge left. Then the wind died. The dawn dimmed. A crawling tide of blackness crept across the horizon, coiling and seething with venomous intent. The air itself shuddered. The first notes of battle struck like a drumbeat in the bones. From the south, the shadows split wide. Voraxia tore through the veil, her wings unfurling like serrated scythes of smoke, her onyx scales glimmering with corrupted light. Her jagged smile gleamed as she dove, a predator savoring the kill before the strike. To the east, the horizon bled crimson. Vorathos surged upward, vast and terrible, her body wreathed in burning mist. Each beat of her wings smeared fire across the sky, a herald of ruin. Behind them, an onyx host poured forth dark dragons by the dozen, their wings blotting out the light, their maws spilling flame blacker than night. The storm had come for Lyra'el. The crystal city shone like a beacon against the encroaching dark, silver wards blazing at full strength. Every soul knew it then. This day, the sky itself would decide their fate. Voraxia's gaze swept the battlefield until it locked on Keisha astride Kimras. Her jagged lips twisted into a sneer, her eyes alight with cruel delight.
You're back for another beating, elf?
Keisha's laugh rang out, fierce and unshaken, her green eyes blazing like emerald fire.
Voraxia, you're still full of hot air.
Kimras answered before she could say more. His roar cracked like golden thunder, rolling across the heavens, making the silver bridges of Lyra'el shiver, as though they might splinter apart under the force. Light shimmered in waves from his scales, each pulse a declaration of defiance. On the eastern horizon, Vorathos's abyssal gaze was fixed upon Amara and Ong. Smoke and flame curled from her spined maw as her voice ground out like boulders breaking beneath a volcanic tide.
Oh, you two again. I thought you'd learned your lesson.
Amara's wings snapped wide, their vast span searing the sky with violet flame. Sparks bled across her scales in jagged arcs as her mind voice cut cold and amethyst sharp through the storm.
Yes, but spare me your blunders. I forgot how much I despise the last dark dragon who whined. I've no wish for another headache.
Ong let out a short, rough laugh, a sound like steel grating on stone. He leaned low against her neck, his hand brushing her scales with easy familiarity.
Still got that sting, Amara.
Above them, the heavens writhed. Light and shadow slammed together in turbulent waves, the sky itself shuddering as though caught in the throes of some vast and merciless storm. The dance had begun. Radiantus surged forward, his vast wings unfurling like banners of living silver. Lyra rose proud upon his back, her hair streaming behind her, as though it, too, had caught the dawn. With a single sweep, Radiantus turned the morning air into a gale, his voice thundering across the heavens, ancient power woven into every syllable.
This is the only warning you will receive. Leave Lyra'el now, or face certain defeat. You will not breach these skies.
Voraxia's hiss unfurled like poisoned silk, sliding across the battlefield.
We will not leave. It is you who will fall, Platinum Fool.
Voratos answered with a roar that split the air. Abyssal fire coiled along his spine, dripping molten streams that scarred the sky itself.
Abyssal flight engage the Platinum and Radiantus. Drown their shine in the deep.
Then Aurelius descended. The celestial dragon carved a vast arc across the heavens, trailing a river of starlight that burned brighter than dawn. His voice carried not as thunder, but as a calm, resonant, unshakable prayer.
You underestimate the light, Shadow Queen. It will not yield to darkness. Light was not given to bow. It was given to endure.
The words struck the defenders like a benediction, echoing through the linkstones and into every heart that stood upon Lyra'el's terraces. At his vow, the horizon tore apart. The dark host erupted, a torrent of wings and fire. Dozens of shadowed dragons surged forward, their roars ripping the sky, their maws vomiting flame blacker than night. The air quaked with their descent. The first collision came like the crash of worlds, silver and gold, colliding with smoke and abyssal fire. The storm broke in an explosion of light and shadow that painted the heavens in ruin and radiance. Meanwhile, at the barrier's pinnacle, Caelorn stood, rooted at the nexus of the weave. His staff blazed with caged brilliance, streams of power flooding from the crystalline heart beneath the city into his veins. His arms trembled as he chanted, ancient words burning across the air in a tongue older than memory. Silver fire laced itself into the trembling dome, flaring bright once more. From the eastern quarter came a shout through the linkstones.
Caelorn, the ward falters, the weave is tearing.
Caelorn spun, robes snapping in the wind as he sprinted across the crystalline platform. Ahead, a section of the barrier wavered like a dying star, its threads unraveling into sparks. He slammed the butt of his staff down, and light flared outward in a torrent, knitting the strands together. The dome shone steady again, but the effort drove him to his knees. Sweat traced molten lines down his brow as he clutched the staff in both hands. A watcher above the sanctum exhaled shakily.
It's holding again.
The relief shattered in an instant. A massive shadow dragon slammed into the barrier, claws screeching against the silver weave. Sparks cascaded like meteors, the sound a shriek that pierced bone. One of the platinum dragons hurtled forward in a flash of steel and fire, its rider lowering his spear as they struck the beast with a crash that lit the sky. The shadow recoiled, wings flailing as it tumbled back into the maelstrom. Caelorn's knuckles whitened on his staff. His chest heaved, each breath ragged. Every word of power scraped raw from his throat.
I do not know,
he whispered into the storm, the confession meant for no ears but his own.
how long we can keep this up.
High above, Voraxia's fury boiled over. With a guttural snarl, she tore from her quarry and wheeled through the turbulent air, her colossal wings leaving a wake of roiling smoke. Her shadow streamed behind her like a living curse, staining the light as she arrowed toward Radiantus and Lyra. But Keisha's eyes narrowed, emerald fire sparking in their depths. She leaned low against Kimras, her voice a fierce whisper along their bond. The ancient golden dragon responded instantly, banking hard into the path of the shadowed empress. His wings cleaved the storm winds, and his throat kindled with molten radiance. Then he opened his jaws and poured forth a torrent of searing gold, a sunburst unleashed across the sky. The blaze struck Varaxia head-on, swallowing her in fire that cracked the very air and lit the silver bridges below in molten reflection. The shadow dragon reeled, shrieking as golden flames scalded her onyx scales. For a heartbeat, her form wavered, shadows peeling back, exposing a glimpse of something vulnerable beneath the corruption. Through that breach surged Aurelia, crystalline wings flashing with razor light. Gylon rose in his saddle, the crystal bow thrumming in his grip, its pulse synchronized with his heartbeat and Aurelia's. He drew back the bowstring, light condensing into a single blazing arrow, pure and unbroken. Every shred of his will poured into that radiant point.
Now!
Aurelia's cry rang like 1,000 glass bells. The arrow flew. It struck Varaxia's shoulder with a shattering crack. Light exploded outward in a storm of crystalline shards, each fragment bursting into a sunflare that burned across her flank. Varaxia screamed, whipping her massive tail in fury. The strike missed Aurelia by a breath, but the force ripped the air apart, hurling glittering fragments of broken shadow and crystal into the wind. Aurelia did not falter. With a roar like chimes turned to war horns, she unfurled her wings in full and loosed a volley of radiant shards. They cut through the storm's darkness, embedding deep into Varaxia's hide, each strike igniting a flare of searing light. The heavens themselves trembled with the collision of brilliance against the void, devotion against malice, as the actual battle for Lyra'el roared into being. Radiantus veered left, a sweep of his vast wings scattering silver fire across the sky. He surged into the path of 3 descending dark dragons, intercepting their charge toward the sanctum's ridge. His talons tore through shadowed flesh, rending one beast from the air, its scream dissolving into a trail of black flame. And then Varathos struck. She descended like a mountain of living abyss, her colossal wings dragging nightfall behind them. Crimson mist bled from her ridges, abyssal fire coiled in her throat. Her roar hammered the heavens, as if the sky itself were stone shattering under her fury. Radiantus rose to meet her, his platinum form a blazing star against her darkness. His chest burned with celestial fire, and in one devastating exhalation, he loosed a beam of silver radiance. It met Varathos's torrent of crimson flame in mid-air. The collision tore the heavens open. Light and shadow smashed together in a blinding detonation, shredding the clouds into ribbons. Shockwaves rippled across the valley, shuddering through every tower of Lyra'el. Varathos circled, smoke streaming from her fanged maw. Her voice was a growl of contempt.
You shine so brightly, Platinum. Let us see how long your light endures when I blot out the heavens.
Talira raised the light-forged shield, its surface blazing with sacred script that shimmered like molten emerald. When she lifted it high, the runes flared in unison with Radiantus's blazing scales, their powers intertwining, amplifying one another until light itself seemed to take form. The shield expanded into a radiant dome that wrapped around dragon and rider, a living fortress of faith and fire. Varathos's abyssal fire struck like a tidal wave, crimson flame and shadow slamming against the barrier. The dome blazed brighter, searing the darkness until it fractured, splintered into sparks, and dissolved into nothing. More than a shield, it was a vow made visible, and an unbreakable bond forged between Radiantus and his rider. Radiantus's eyes blazed, silver fire pouring from their depths.
Try and fail.
His roar boomed across the battlefield, deep and unyielding, echoing like war drums across the crystal peaks.
You will not face me alone,
he thundered.
Vacari stands with me.
Through the bond, his call ignited hearts. From every quarter of the sky, the noble dragons answered, their voices rising in a chorus of defiance. Golden, emerald, amethyst, and silver tones layered together, a storm of song that shook the heavens and made the city's crystal towers sing in resonance with their roar. From below, the heavens split with twin streams of emerald and violet fire, Verdantia and Amara surged upward together, flanking the abyssal behemoth in a storm of colour and flame. On Verdantia's back, Thalorian held the arbor blade aloft, its emerald edge pulsing with the wrath of the wild. Opposite him, Ong rose in the saddle, the dragon lance gleaming like a shard of vengeance across his back, as Amara's wings painted the sky in violet fire. Between them, Keisha pressed her glowing hands to Kimras's golden scales, weaving threads of protective magic into a barrier that shimmered like living glass around them all. Voratos wheeled above, her vast shadow blotting the horizon. With a guttural bellow, she hurled herself forward in a second strike. Her maw yawned wide, abyssal fire coiling into a spiral of crimson death that promised to consume everything it touched. Ong rose to meet it. Braced against Amara's neck, he lifted the dragon lance. His cry rang out, harsh and unyielding, like steel grinding across stone. He hurled the weapon with all his strength. The lance blazed as it flew, a streak of violet and silver that buried itself beneath Vorathos's armoured shoulder. The weapon sank deep, piercing the abyssal flesh. The shadow dragon's shriek tore across the sky, raw pain laced with fury. Black ichor rained down, sizzling like acid, where it splashed against Lyra'el's glowing wards. Verdantia seized the moment. With a resonant bellow, her emerald wings folded, and she plummeted in a lethal dive. Thalorian's arm swept the arbor blade in a perfect arc. Its radiant edge sang as it sliced through a writhing tendril of shadow spilling from Vorathos's wound. The cut ignited with green fire, a wave of living light bursting outward and slamming into the dark dragon's chest. The impact forced Vorathos back, her massive wings thrashing as she fought for balance amid the shredded clouds. The defenders roared their defiance, voices carried on the wind. For the first time, the abyssal dragon faltered. Across the battlefield, Aurelius rose with his celestial kin. Vast silver wings cut the darkened sky, each beat scattering cascades of starlight. Together, the Celestials formed a living constellation, arcs of brilliance weaving radiant shields as they crashed into the onyx swarm head-on. High above, Voraxia wheeled, her wings stretched with terrible grace, smoke coiling from her form like banners of war. The air itself chilled as her presence spread. Her voice ripped through the storm, venomous and triumphant.
"Let me show you the black sun."
From her chest, darkness erupted. A vortex spiraled outward, swelling into a sphere of writhing shadow that devoured the light. The heavens dimmed. Stars winked out, as though swallowed whole. The world sank beneath an endless eclipse. Even Lyra'el's crystalline hum faltered, muffled beneath the suffocating shroud. But Aurelius did not bend. His massive form burned with inner radiance, scales flowing like molten silver. He soared higher, cutting into the darkness, his voice steady as a hymn.
"Let the skies remember their light."
His chest blazed, and with a thunderous exhale, he released a pulse of pure celestial fire. A spear of brilliance lanced upward, striking the roiling heart of the black sun. Light met shadow. The collision detonated with apocalyptic fury. Silver radiance tangled with crimson flame, shredding the swirling shroud into ribbons of smoke. Fissures of brilliance cracked through the false night, tearing holes where daylight poured through in burning shafts. Each rupture revealed terrified faces on Lyra'el's terraces, momentarily bathed in silver glow. Still Voraxia pressed forward, her silhouette a vast maw of hunger and hate. Her wings hammered against the radiant gale, shadow colliding with starfire. The black sun writhed and clawed at the sky, and still Aurelius burned brighter. Below, Gailen staggered beneath the weight of that clash. The oppressive dark clawed at his spirit, dragging at his breath, smothering his courage. Yet the crystal bow pulsed steadily in his hands, its rhythm echoing Aurelia's song. Her presence surged through their bond, fierce and unyielding, lending him her strength. Together, he thought, always together. He whispered through clenched teeth.
"Let them see."
The bow answered. Radiance bloomed between his fingers, an arrow of pure intent drawn from the marrow of his will. He loosed, and the shot became a spear of sunfire tearing through the dark. It struck the heart of the black sun. For a heartbeat, the void held, seething. Then the spear fractured, erupting into a storm of light. Shards of brilliance cascaded outward in blinding waves, ripping through the coiling shadows. The black sun buckled, fractured, and burst. The suffocating night ripped apart, light shattering through in radiant torrents. The abyssal host shrieked as the storm consumed them. Dark dragons reeled, their wings buckling, as their forms tumbled through the air in chaos. Whole ranks scattered, blinded by radiance searing through their shadow veins. With a crystalline cry, Aurelia folded her wings and dove, streaking like a falling star. The celestial dragons plunged with her, a storm of silver and light carving a radiant path straight through the broken darkness. Varaxia shrieked in fury, twisting against the unraveling eclipse. Her power bled away, the black sun collapsing in shreds of smoke and dying sparks. Her hateful gaze locked on Gylon. High above, Aurelius met his eyes, white fire burning deep within his gaze. His voice carried over the battlefield, a sonorous hymn that rang louder than the storm itself.
Well struck, Prince. The stars themselves bear witness.
Meanwhile, Vorothos wheeled back toward Radiantus, rage boiling in every thunderous beat of her vast wings. The jagged wound beneath her shoulder still poured black fire, dripping like molten tar, yet she drove herself onward with reckless ferocity. Abyssal magic seethed from her talons in storm-born ribbons of crimson and shadow. Her roar was a cataclysm, mountains collapsing in sound, the sky itself quaking with her fury. But Radiantus was waiting. The platinum dragon flared his wings wide, silver brilliance cascading like waterfalls of light. His gaze burned steady, fixed upon her descent. Tahlira's cry rang fiercely at his back, a clarion call that sharpened his resolve.
This ends now.
Radiantus's chest ignited, molten light surging to his throat. He exhaled, unleashing a column of celestial fire that tore the heavens apart. The beam was pure wrath and purity entwined, and it did not blaze alone. From across the chaos, Aurelius wheeled in mid-air, his own radiance building until the sky itself seemed to hold its breath. He joined his light to Radiantus's, and the twin torrents fused into a single devastating spear of starlit fury. The heavens ignited. The combined strike hammered into Varathos's onrushing darkness, tearing her abyssal fire apart thread by thread. Shadow writhed and shredded under the assault. Silver fire and starlight carved across her vast chest, across wings black as midnight, peeling away scale and sinew until streams of sizzling ichor rained onto the glowing dome below. Vorothos screamed, her voice a storm of rage and anguish that echoed across the mountains. She faltered mid-dive, twisting violently as the light forced her back, driving her upward and away. Clouds split beneath her thrashing wings, the sky itself scarred by her retreat. On the terraces below, the people cried out, not with terror, but in awe. Faces upturned, they watched their champions blaze against the abyss, the firmament itself aflame with silver, emerald, violet, and gold. The dragons of Vacari roared as one, the sound a hymn of defiance. Their wings flashed in radiant arcs, a living tapestry unfurling across the storm-racked sky. And as Varaxia writhed within the sundered light of Aurelia's storm, Varathos gathered herself once more. With a bone-shaking bellow, she hurled her massive form toward Aurelius. Hurricanes whipped from her wings, darkness streaming from her scales in choking rivers that painted the dawn like ink spilled across parchment. Her eyes glared with venomous resolve, fixed on the Celestial's burning form. However, the platinum dragons were already in motion. In flawless unison, they surged into her path, rider and dragon fused by will and bond. Their light-forged shields burst into radiant life, domes overlapping until they became a wall of living brilliance. Steel flashed as riders raised their blades, their battle cries weaving with the thunder of wings and the roars of dragons. Varatos slammed into them with the force of a falling mountain. Her claws raked across the shields, casting a storm of sparks. Crimson fire boiled from her jaws, pouring against the radiant barrier. Yet the domes held. Each impact flared brighter, as if the courage of the riders themselves fueled the ancient sigils carved into the shields. Aurelius soared above, his vast wings sweeping forward. Silver radiance cascaded down like a second dawn, bathing the defenders in divine fire. His calm presence steadied the line, and where despair had lurked, resolve burned brighter. Above them all, the clash of steel, light, fang and shadow rolled through the skies like a war symphony. Lyra'el's defenders did not break. They did not falter. They became the wall. Verdantia and Amara carved through the storm, their wings cleaving the choking black mists that coiled across the battlefield. Emerald fire streamed from Verdantia's pinions in sweeping arcs, while Amara's amethyst blaze tore through the gloom like a rain of falling stars. Their flight carved radiant scars into the darkness, a defiance written in flame. On Verdantia's back, Thalorian rose tall and unshaken, the arbor blade glowing a fierce green in his grip, its edge thrumming with the pulse of the living wild. Across from him, Ong crouched low on Amara's neck, dragonlance poised, his stance braced against the storm, eyes blazing with resolve. Varatos lunged to meet them. Her abyssal wings drove her downward with savage force, claws stretched wide, void fire boiling between her fangs. The air itself buckled beneath the fury of her descent, the sky folding inward as though it were being dragged into her wake. Ong's voice rang out, raw and fierce, carrying across the storm like steel tearing stone. He rose and hurled the dragonlance. The weapon cut through the dark like a bolt of lightning, slamming beneath Varathos's front leg and embedding deep in her flesh. The impact was thunder, steel split scale and sinew. Black ichor burst forth in a scorching torrent, hissing as it rained across the shimmering dome below. Varatos roared, a sound so vast it rattled the crystal towers of Lyra'el and shook the mountains themselves. Her massive wings faltered, the rhythm of her dive shattered into chaos. Thalorian was already moving. The arbor blade swept out in a radiant arc, its emerald edge blazing with primal fury. Verdantia's roar merged with the song of the blade, a harmony that became a tide of green fire. The stroke ripped through the abyssal shadows trailing from Varathos's wound, shredding them into burning fragments that fell like smouldering leaves. The blast struck home. Varathos staggered, her colossal chest lit with emerald fire, the corruption on her scales peeled away in sizzling streams of black smoke. She reeled with a howl that split the storm, driven backward through the writhing dark. Above, the skies of Lyra'el convulsed with colliding forces. Silver radiance and abyssal shadow clashed in vast, whirling currents, tearing the heavens into a maelstrom of flame, light and void. Yet through the chaos, the defenders of Vacari held their formation. Wings gleamed like radiant banners. Blades flashed. Roars of defiance wove through the storm, each cry a vow. They would not yield. Not now. Not ever. High above, Varaxia and Varathos circled, their once regal forms battered and scarred. Smoke trailed from Varathos's wound, crimson mist swirling with her fury. Where they had counted on numbers and terror, they now saw ruin. Their dark flight reeled in disarray. Shadow dragons shrieked as radiant arrows pierced them, as emerald fire and violet flame tore their wings to tatters. Abyssal beasts spiraled toward the horizon, black ichor raining in their wake. The noble dragons of Vacari held the skies. Their united roars rolled like earthquakes through the crystal city, their radiant scales blazing as though the heavens themselves had descended to shield Lyra'el. Varaxia's eyes burned with venom, her malice pouring out in waves so hot it warped the air. She lashed her tail again and again, every stroke carving scars of darkness across the broken dawn. Beside her, Varathos hovered, chest still bleeding radiant wounds that smoked and hissed in the air. Her abyssal eyes burned cold, sharper than her sister's fire, calculating and cruel. She was already measuring not only the clash before her, but the war yet to come. The two dark titans drifted side by side, wings shuddering as they looked down upon the ruin of their scattered host. Shadowed dragons reeled through the air, some plummeting in flaming spirals, others limping back into the yawning black rift. What had descended as an unstoppable tide now looked ragged and broken.
We are not winning this.
Varaxia growled, her voice a serrated edge of fury. Voratos bared her fangs, abyssal fire curling at the corners of her mouth. Rage burned hot in her chest, but calculation pressed colder still. At last she dipped her massive head in a single reluctant nod.
Retreat.
Yet even as she spoke the word, her gaze cut toward the east. Her burning eyes locked on Keisha, astride Kimras, hatred coiling within them, sharp and merciless.
Next time,
she hissed, every syllable steeped in venom.
I will not leave without her. She will be taken one way or another.
Radiantus hovered in answer, his platinum scales ablaze with silver fire. His voice thundered like a vow carved into the bones of the world itself.
You will not touch her, not while any of us yet draw breath.
Kimras surged forward at his side, golden radiance igniting in his chest. With a roar that split the firmament, he loosed a jet of searing flame. The torrent arced outward, not at Varaxia or Vorathos, but around Keisha. Fire and light coiled into a radiant halo, a blazing barrier that wrapped his rider in untouchable brilliance.
She is under my protection,
Kimras roared, golden light spilling from his jaws in a storm of defiance.
Any who threaten her will answer to me.
Amara swept up beside him, violet fire shimmering across her scales, her wings cutting the darkness with ruthless grace. Her mental voice rang sharp as steel.
Let them come. I would welcome the chance to remind them what happens when they dare to target one of ours.
Ong rose tall upon her back, dragon lance gleaming in the fractured light. His voice rang like iron driven into stone.
You already failed once. You won't get another chance.
Varaxia's vast wings beat the storm into submission as she turned away. Her snarl dripped venom, a final roar splitting the heavens.
This is not over, Radiantus. We will return.
From the battlefield's shattered heart, Radiantus ascended, his platinum wings unfurling into the dawn. His body blazed like a second sunrise, a vision of unyielding light. His thunderous vow rolled across Lyra'el.
And we will be waiting. We will drive you from Vacari, for you do not belong here.
Aurelius drew alongside, his vast silver wings scattering the last tatters of shadow. His eyes burned with steady fire, his voice a solemn hymn that rang like a temple bell through the broken skies.
Ispet, daut plisonomeno, osiaci shiltati hupe malrak, where visuprageo confenecas lighten svadrav koitirek, mobigeo kethrik refuge, tangis pezek where drasonameco.
Tell your master this, shadows cannot hide forever. The truth will come to light, and when it does, there will be no refuge, even in the abyss.
The draconic challenge reverberated through the air like a tolling star bell, its echoes lingering even as the storm itself unraveled. Vorathos's colossal wings shivered, and Varaxia's hiss rose in furious denial. Yet neither dared remain. With a final echoing shriek, the Dark Sisters wheeled and vanished into the gaping rift, their broken host scattering after them like ash on the wind. For a long, breathless moment, silence reigned. The storm had passed. Lyra'el still trembled, its crystal towers veined with scars of fire and shadow. The air reeked of smoke and char, but the silver dome still held, burning like a promise against the sky. The city had endured. Radiantus hovered, his vast form haloed in fading brilliance, the weight of his vow lingering in the air. Aurelius glided at his side, silent but watchful, eyes like white moons fixed on the horizon where the rift had closed. All across the terraces, the people exhaled, their prayers dissolving into sobs and shouts of relief. Yet beneath the chorus of voices, beneath the thunder of retreating wings, Aurelius's words lingered in every heart. The enemy would return, and this time their master's face would not remain hidden. Radiantus turned at last, his immense wings catching the first true light of dawn. His voice rolled firm and clear, a beacon across the sky.
Return home to Lyra'el.
The war horns were silent now, their echoes fading into the wounded morning. Yet the spirit of unity still burned bright, unbroken, defiant. One by one, the defenders wheeled back toward the crystal terraces. The platinum dragons drew inward, their shields dimming as their riders lowered them at last. Verdantia and Thalorian descended in a spiral of emerald flame, while Amara and Ong cut through the thinning smoke, violet fire trailing in their wake. High above, Kimras and Keisha lingered a moment longer, golden flame still curling protectively around her like a living vow. Together they turned toward the radiant spires of the celestial city. Their wings beat as one, a tide of light returning to Lyra'el, battered, scarred, yet unbroken. Silence fell once more across the realm. But this was not the fragile hush of dawn. It was the silence after a storm, heavy with the breath of the weary, the echo of dragon wings, and the fragile rising promise of hope. For now the battle was ended, but in every heart a truth burned bright. It was only the beginning.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.